Hello to everybody who gets very distracted by hot cowboys and masks. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, one phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hey everybody, it's Chris. This is sort of a pre-intro before the intro. I just have to say a massive, massive thanks to people over at the Facebook group, Beautiful Anonymous, the community. Something really touching happened, and I have to just say a massive thanks. I wish I could name a name, but this person posted anonymously. Everybody knows BeautifulAnonymous.com is a thing that we plug each week. You get ad-free episodes. You get extra time with each caller. If you're at that upper tier, you get a secret number once a month, and you get follow-up calls with past callers. And it's been so fun, and I'm really proud of it. But I have not wanted to be sleazy and push it too hard or make it too salesy. There's enough ads on the show. But an anonymous member of that Facebook community posted the following on December 20th. 3 days ago, and said, "Hey, Beautiful Anonymous community, let's pull off a holiday miracle and help Chris hit 2,000 BA plus subscribers before the year's end. Even just $5 a month for December would make a huge difference if it's within your budget. Let's help Chris and his family land that big bonus check." Now, that was posted anonymously. To whomever did this, thank you in a huge way. Like I said, I worry about the integrity of the show over everything else, but it is true. If we hit 2,000 subscribers, it's an amount of money that is game-changing on a family level, like on a paying the mortgage level, on a paying for Cal's college level. And it was clear to me that we weren't going to get there, and I didn't want to keep pushing and making it all salesy, like I said. I will say, I'm going to check right now, we've had about 100 people sign up in the past 3 days because of that post. It's been so touching to me. I still don't know if we're going to get to 2,000, but I will also say to see people showing up and saying that they like the stuff you get over at BeautifulAnonymous.com, to see people like Emily in there who said, if anybody wants to try it out, I'll Venmo you $5 to sign up for the month for up to 20 people. And then a whole bunch of other people saying, I'll also get in on that and gift subscriptions. Lindsay, Kelly, Jamie are all in there saying, yep, I'll do it too. Annie, other people going, is this a genuine offer? And other people going, yes, send me an email address. And it's really touching. It's really kind. It's people in there saying Greg is in that very same thread saying, the stuff behind Beautiful Anonymous Plus is actually the best part of the show now. I like that part the best, and it makes me like the show more than ever. And I just have to say, I don't know if we're going to get to 2,000, but I will say that seeing people rally around it and seeing that outpouring of positivity, I can't explain to you how touching it is. And if we get there, we get there. If we don't, we don't. I'm a very lucky person. We'll be fine. If we do get there, when I tell you legitimately that it helps my family, it's legit. That being said, I don't want to ever put people in a position where they feel like they're being, that there's snake oil or salesmanship or whatever. But just a massive amount of thanks that developed in the time since we recorded last week's intro, or else I would have put it directly in the intro. But just wanted to have this as a little pre-thing. That's just a huge, massive thanks to everybody who's rallying around that idea, to the people who are saying, I'm in a position to help gift subscriptions to others. That's so cool. And to see a big bite towards 2,000 happened in 3 days just because people started rattling the chains and talking about it in that Facebook group. It's hugely touching and meaningful to me. And whether you get there or not, just know that means the world. It's really, really kind. Your kindness is not unappreciated. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. If you're not into the intros, I get it. I will tell you, I forgot to note how long this one was, but it was actually super quick by our standards, probably about 2 minutes or so. and then you'll be right at the phone call, which to me is like, you might as well just listen to it at that point. Anyway, enjoy the call. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Gethard, and it's a joy to welcome you to Beautiful Anonymous. It's coming out on Christmas Eve, 2024. Hope everybody has a good holiday. I know the holidays are very joyous for some people. They can also be tough for others. I hope that wherever it lands for you, that this is a relatively pleasant one, and that you make of it the best you can, and that for those of you who enjoy, it's a world of fun. And for those of you who are not feeling the holidays, that it's not too much of a pain in your butt this year. How's that for realism? You're about to hear a call that is from one of our Touchtone tier callers over at beautifulanonymous.com. Once a month, one of the perks you get for subscribing is a secret phone number that only goes out to the Touchtone tier. And we proceed to have a lovely conversation. And you'll hear some of it's about really serious life changes. Some of it we get super sidetracked and talk about music we like. But all of it has a sense of fun, a sense of connecting, and I hope is a good reminder. And I say things like this during the call. There's people in the world who get held up as these points of political debate, and man, that's just tiresome. It's just gross. People are people. They don't exist to motivate votes and political shifts. Let people be people. It's a good reminder of that. And also, it's called fun, and it's funny. And when we get behind the paywall, it gets even better. And I'm not trying to plug the paywall too hard, but hey, if it's Christmas Eve, you're going to give yourself a gift, or maybe there's somebody in your life that you need a last-minute gift, maybe a subscription to Beautiful Anonymous is just the gift you're looking for. Who knows? I'm trying to be a good salesman here too, people. Anyway, this call is super fun. Get in the Facebook group, pitch some names. The floodgates are open for pitches. You'll know exactly what that means momentarily. Hope everybody has a good holiday. Hope everybody's not driven too crazy by the madcap pace of the holiday season. Hope you're staying warm. Hope you enjoy the call.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm good. I've had not a busy morning, I guess, busier than it usually is, because this is usually when I first wake up for the day. I just went grocery shopping this morning and picked up some prescriptions, and now I'm talking to you.
Nice. Can I ask what time zone you're in?
I am in Central Time Zone, so it's only 10 o'clock for me.
Oh, so you do generally sleep in. God bless you.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty nice. I work second shift, actually. I'm a high school janitor, so I work from like 3 to 11. So I clean up after the kids.
But you're there generally when most of them have already gone home?
Yeah, for the most part, it's kind of a new school, and they have a whole new I don't know. They renovated the whole building, so now it's kind of like a community center, basically. So there's like always events going on. It's pretty rare that it's actually empty when I'm working, but yeah, for the most part, there's no classes or anything going on.
That's pretty sweet. I think that's much preferable to the shift when you have to deal with actual high school kids coming and going.
100%. Yeah, they still tick me off, obviously. But yeah, no, it's a pretty sweet gig. I started this job. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I started in August, but the last job it's been a weird year. I don't know if you've had a weird year, but it's been a very strange year for me. I started this year in January. I was working at my local county public health department, just as the front desk person there. And I got fired from that job in June, which was pretty sudden. So it's been a weird year for me.
That stinks. That stinks.
I'm glad
getting
to have
fired.
This job. Yeah. I honestly, I probably should have seen it coming though, because I was in a customer service job, and am not good at customer service.
Well, that'll do it.
I'm not very, I don't have a lot of patience for people, especially when they call me, pissed off that their garbage didn't get picked up or something. So
yeah, I'm sure that gets old fast.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess I'll get right into my little gimmicky pitch for this call, if that's cool. So the other reason this year has been kind of weird and crazy for me is I've made some pretty concrete steps towards my gender transition. So which is cool, obviously. But I was wondering if you and Andrea, if she wants to participate, would want to pick out a name for me since you guys don't know me. I want to say I don't have any concrete plans to change my name anytime soon. So it's no pressure. It's not like I have a court date set tomorrow and I have to pick one now. But, I've just been thinking about it, obviously. So I don't know.
So you're saying at some point your name's going to legally change. You haven't decided what it is and you want to hash it out right here on Beautiful Anonymous.
Yeah, let's work it out.
All right. Now, okay. First broad
and then
question.
If you want, if you want to plug the Beautiful Anonymous plus the Touchstone tier or whatever, you can wait to reveal your name picks until the bonus content. I was kind of thinking that too. I think that'd be fun.
I love how you're out here hustling on my behalf. Because you dialed in today to a secret number only given to Touchstone tier participants. Let's note, for anybody out there who's listening who's on the fence, whether you're thinking of maybe joining or maybe bumping up from the Rotary tier over at beautifulanonymous.com.
Exactly.
You got through, and there's good, funny stuff back there every week.
There really is. The caller, okay, so last week's call, the woman whose son tried to kill her, that was fucking a crazy episode, first of all.
Yeah.
But then her bonus content was so fun to listen to. So it's totally worth it because then you get to decompress a little after a call like that. So.
It is true. The intense call followed by the very charming and funny bonus material is good. And you can also vouch now, Touchstone tier callers in particular are now starting to get unplanned and admittedly unhinged monologues about my opinion of owning a dog. I don't know if you've listened to that.
Yeah.
I think it was a 17.
Oh
yeah, you do love what?
Just that I loved every minute of your unhinged ranting about how you are still not really loving being a dog owner. I love that for you.
I did not think I was going to speak about the dog at all. And then the Touchstone, I think it was maybe on the plug for this number that you called.
Yeah.
I think it wound up being 17 minutes of me ranting about the dog.
Yeah.
So if anybody's looking for dog updates, this is where you get it. And I think I did in a way that was maybe not the coolest, kept comparing the smell of my dog when he's wet to slightly spoiled movie theater popcorn butter. And it went on for 17 minutes.
Talk about that.
Yeah. Although this is really material that is generally confined to people who sign up at beautifulanonymous.com. But yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, you're right. No, I'll drop it. I just want to say I don't relate to the movie theater butter smell.
Andrea got it.
I don't know. I know. And then when you said that she got it, I was like, what are you guys talking about? I was really, I don't know. I haven't been around a dog in a while, though. I have a cat right now, but I'm going home for Christmas. And I guess I'll have to just smell my mom's wet dog when I get home next week.
I do like knowing, though.
And I guess I'll let you know.
I do like knowing that you're out there. And I think everybody who's listened to the show for years has heard me grow up and chill out in many ways. But I like knowing that you're sitting there listening going, well, if Chris goes on a truly unhinged rant, I trust Andrea to be the voice of reason. That as your confusion related as much to Andrea agreeing with my nonsense as anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really the point where I was like, okay, I'm kind of lost here, but it's fine.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah,
that's
going back to the name thing, you said you had a broad question. So what was that?
I guess the broad questions are, my policy is that I'm going to make zero assumptions based on just your voice. I want to know
Mm-hmm.
where I want, and also this idea of going beyond the binary spectrum could land in any number of places. So I guess I'm wondering where you see yourself landing, how you imagine you're going to identify down the line, how much you want your name to be gendered in one direction or the other, or how much you want us to walk the line of a name that feels a little more ambiguous and could apply across the spectrum. These are the sort of broad questions that I imagine will help keep me from putting my foot in my mouth.
Yeah, totally. So right now I identify as non-binary. I was born female, and I've been taking testosterone for a couple months. So yeah, I am looking for a more like masculine name. But yeah, so going on hormones was another like big step that I took this year. Cause I've been like thinking about it for so long. And then I finally was like, okay, I'll just do it. And it's been great. But the first like big thing that happened was, in May of this year, I got a hysterectomy. So I don't have a uterus, don't have any of that bullshit in there, which is awesome. So that was also another thing that I was like, had been thinking about for a while. And then with that last county job, I had really good insurance, thankfully. So I was like, fuck it, I'm getting this thing out of there. So that was pretty great. So that did kind of like kick it off. And then, yeah, the hormones thing, after my surgery or during the pre-op appointments for the surgery, my doctor was super great. And she was like, did you want to start testosterone like right away? And at the time I was like, no, it'll probably be a while before I do that. And then, I started it in October. So it was really like 5 months had passed or something. And I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There questions I want to ask, and then I want to focus on the name issue in particular. But I do have some questions in response. I sit here, I go, first of all, hearing you live your truth, hearing you say this is something I've thought about for a long time, and I decided it was time to go for it. I just want to sit here and say, congratulations. I hope it's going well. I hope it's making you feel comfort that you have craved, and that all these things are happening. I do sit here. I don't like to go political, but you are living life as part of a politicized group right now. And I sit here and I'm wondering, first of all, I want to know how old you are.
I'm 29. I'll be 30 in March.
Going on 30. And the one thing that I keep thinking about too, especially hearing you talking about surgeries and hormones, is I am struck by and feel like I would be failing if I did not note that, especially this idea in schools, it came up so much in the election of your kids are going to go off to school and come home having had a gender reassignment surgery, and they're going to put hormones on.
I wish it was that easy.
I was just going to say, like, listen, there are people out there who there are people out there who fully understand. There are people out there who aim to understand. There are people who are going to try and never understand. There are people who are not willing to try. Those ones I have a serious problem with. And there's a wide range. But the one thing I will say, and I'm glad you already said it, as I sit here and I go, when you start to hear that become a political point, they're going to send your kids to school and put them on hormones and not even tell you. You are a 30-year-old person who has gone for this, and I think can vouch. That's not happening. It's not happening.
Yeah, no.
In fact, it's...
Yeah,
They don't just have hormones. They don't have hormones sitting around in the nurse's office. In fact, they are hard to get. True or false?
Yeah, true. I will say so. I live in Minnesota right now. I'm from Illinois. I moved here a couple years ago, not even specifically for like the ease of access to gender stuff, which is fairly easy in Minnesota, I'll say. I just moved here a couple years ago for other reasons. But so I do want to say I have had like it's been pretty smooth sailing. Like especially when I think about getting the hysterectomy too, like I made the appointment to talk to a doctor about it. And I just told her that was something I was interested in. And she didn't tell me that I couldn't get it because I haven't had kids yet and I might change my mind. Like, she didn't tell me that, like, I had to go see a therapist about it or something. Like, actually, okay, my doctor was actually pretty awesome because I told her that I wanted the surgery for two reasons. One reason was obviously like gender transition stuff. The other reason is I had horrible periods. Like, I don't think people talk about that a lot either. Like, periods suck, obviously, but mine were like terrible. And then also like made me feel terrible because it wasn't, for gender stuff, whatever. But so she was like, well, we can do the surgery and I'll just like bill it as being a part of like taking care of the period part, because then, if we say that it's like for gender care, then you will have to go see a therapist and get a letter of recommendation or whatever. So she kind of like let me like lie a little bit to my insurance company, which was awesome. So so that was super helpful. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I've had it pretty easy. I will say that. So yeah.
A fair and honest answer. That being said, I do just stand by. I want to make sure it's clear to people. First of all, I just have to say two things about this. Is one, the fact that everyone has been led down a rabbit hole of constantly needing to have and express opinions on people who are transitioning is absolute snake oil that's been politicized. Let people live lives they want to live. Leave them alone. And second of all, nobody's kid is going to school at 8 a.m. as a boy and coming home as a girl. It's not real. It's not happening, everybody. So take a breath, connect with people as people, and let's all resist the urge to ever let our confusion, our concern, even perhaps on some people, our judgment be turned into an issue that gets you riled up so that some people can get your votes because they convinced you to light a torch and grab a pitchfork and demonize someone else. Gross. Mm-hmm. Even if you're sorting out your opinions on any issue in the world, let alone this one. Do not let it be something where someone goes, and now you better vote for this party. No, stop. Yeah. Stop. Anyway, I say that hopefully in a way that you can tell. I'd like to think that compassion comes first, and I hope that you can feel that coming from me. Oh, yeah.
Of course. Yeah. No, totally.
All right.
I was just re-listening to it was an episode a couple months ago, Backpack Full of Rocks, I think was the title. That person was trans as well. And I remember when that episode came out, this was only like this summer or something that episode came out, and I hadn't started hormones yet, but the person in that episode said something like that they were doing things to make themselves feel good rather than doing things to avoid feeling bad. And like that, like really struck a chord. I think honestly that did help me like kind of take a step towards starting hormones too, because I was like, well, wait, like the surgery made me feel pretty good. And now I'm like, I just haven't done anything else because I was like scared. And I already look kind of like non-binary anyway. I've had a buzz cut for like 10 years or whatever, and I don't dress like super feminine or masculine even, honestly. I just wear like fucking jeans and a t-shirt 90% of the time. But yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what made me think of that, but just that person being like, yeah, you can like do things that make you feel good. I was like, oh, I forgot that that's part of it too. So hormones have been great too. So highly recommend.
You get one life. And I sit here and I go, there are so many people out there, I think, who just go, this is how life is supposed to be. So I'm going to just grin and bear it, even though I'm exhausted or in pain or full of self-loathing or full of anger and bitterness. This is what life is supposed to be. So I go and I get it. And I sit here and I go, I have had more positive experiences, more fun, more connection with other people. When you sit here and you go, people who spend less time worrying about what life is supposed to look like and instead just live life, those are the people who bring more to the table, who are more fun to be around, who create more comfort, excitement, joy, opportunity for connection, and that can take on so many definitions and forms. But in general, people who go, I need to bend my life to fit into a box as prescribed by the values laid out in the 1950s. I sit here and go, I've watched so many people in my 44 years on earth bend and bend and bend to that until they break from it. No, thanks. Find your joy, find your happiness, find a life where you feel like you can take a deep breath and let your guard down. And that's for a lot of people on earth, that doesn't involve 2 cars in the driveway and a white picket fence. And that's fine, everybody.
Yep. I will say, so getting fired from my last job, which was like a, typical office job, whatever, that sucked, obviously. And I kind of didn't see it coming. But at the same time, it was kind of a blessing too, because having like an office job like that, like, sucked too at the same time. And then when I got this job working as a janitor, it's weird. Like when I first started and I told I was telling my sisters and my mom that I got this job or whatever, and they all work office jobs, 9 to 5s, and always have pretty much. Like, I felt like embarrassed telling them that I was going to be a janitor. Like, isn't that fucked up? Like, I know that you will, understand that, I think, because I feel like you are you have that, like, working class, whatever vibe. But yeah, it's just a job. And also, this is probably like the easiest job I've ever had. I don't have to, deal with people yelling at me all the time or whatever. Like, I just clean and I work on my own half the time. I listen to literally this podcast, like, while I work. And then my coworkers are super nice. I see them at our little breaks, and then I go home and it's like nothing. I don't take work home with me. It's great. I come back to work the next day and I just do it all over again. It's fucking awesome. But it's just weird that I was like embarrassed that I had this job now, which pays better than the job that I got fired from. So I'm like doing really well right now, and I have a job that I like, and I can pay bills and whatever. I don't know. If you're happy, if you're paying your bills and you're happy, why would we ever? Oh, now we're never even get to the name thing, because now you're about to set me off on one of my classist rants of going. Go off, Chris.
Let's pause there. This caller knows me well, opening me up to rant about my working class roots. It's good. It's funny. It's also very much from the gut. We'll get there. I promise we will also get to some name pitches. But in the meantime, we got some ads. We'll be right back. Thanks to all of our advertisers. Now let's get back to this phone call. Oh, now we're never even get to the name thing, because now you're about to set me off on one of my classist rants of going. Go off. No, go off. Well, Chris. I just sit here and I go, I absolutely am of an age where I go, I was really, really, and probably still am, of the workaholic hustle culture vibe. And even people 3, 4, 5 years younger than me look at it and go, why are we still doing that? Why are we still doing this thing where you need to prove how hard a worker you are by working until, being the last one in the office, working until my teeth fell out when I had my old TV show. Literally 2 teeth fell out because I was grinding my teeth so hard from the stress. Yeah, in the writer's room of my show, 2 different times.
I have like tooth falling out. Those are like my anxiety nightmares. Like my teeth fall out, or I pull my teeth out myself, or whatever.
Many people have had an anxiety nightmare when I tell you that I, without exaggeration, was so stressed out when I used to host. Like, people will say to me sometimes, like, oh, would you ever think about wanting to host another TV show or try to get back on TV? I sit here, I go, never, as the person where all the pressure is on them, because that pressure was so great that 2 different times in the writer's room, teeth fell out of my head because I was working myself to the bone. And I look back and I go, I made some things I'm extraordinarily proud of. I helped support this little TV show that wound up giving like 100 people jobs. I flipped the writer's room of my show to be a union show. It was the first show that was WGA on the True TV network. They had fought other shows to try to make sure that didn't happen. I was able to bust open a network towards unionism. I sit here, I go, there's so many things I'm proud of. That being said, I had teeth falling out of my face. It's not worth it. And I sit here and I go, why would you ever be ashamed of finding a job where you go, I get to throw headphones in. I make more money than my last job. I pay my bills. I put my head down. I do the work. I'm happy. And my work doesn't define every aspect of my personality. This idea that we train ourselves to be ashamed of our jobs, especially for the working class, I sit there, I go, no, because I might be an artist and fancy and got to do cool shit on TV, but I know where my roots are, and I know how hard my father worked. I know what my grandfather immigrated to this country, and it was a frozen foods manager at an A&P supermarket. And when the class war comes, I'm so sorry to tell you, to my neighbors in my rather wealthy zip code these days, I'm the poorest person in a wealthy zip code. I'm so sorry.
They're going down.
They're not going down personally, but like, if we all got to pick up a brick and decide which way we're throwing it, I'm throwing it in the direction that helps the workers of this world. And I don't think I'm not trying to sound, and also, just to be clear, this is all a metaphor. I don't look forward to a world where we throw bricks at each other. It's a metaphor. But where my heart is hardworking people deserve a lot of respect, deserve a lot of happiness. And I am envious of people who are younger than me who look at the hustle vibe with outright confusion. They are confused. Why do you want to be gone all day? Why do you take pride in working yourself to the point of panic attacks? Why do you take pride in raising your blood pressure, all so that you can get a pat on the head in a workplace environment? Why? I'm jealous that younger people figured that out. I have worked to the point of mental and physical harm at points, and it's a bad loop to be caught in. Anyway. I like talking with you.
Well, that's a shame. I mean, obviously, I love the Chris Gethard show, but I hate hearing that your fucking teeth fell out. That's crazy.
It was nuts. Between me doing stand-up and me having teeth fall out, I've actually lived many people's nightmares. Those are 2 actual nightmares people have. You were going to ask a question.
That's really funny. No, I was just going to ask, have you seen The Substance yet? That movie that came out this year?
I have not.
I'm assuming not.
No.
There's a scene in it where Margaret Qualley like pulls her teeth out in the sink. She's literally just like pulling them out with her fingers. And watching that in the movie theater, I'm like watching through my fingers because it's so horrific. But I was like, oh, I've literally like had a dream that I was doing this exact thing before. Like, it was just crazy. I love that movie. It was great.
I don't know about it, and now I'm freaked out. But it sounds good.
It's a really good movie. It's pretty good. Demi Moore is, she takes this, mysterious substance to like create a like younger, hotter version of herself, basically, that ends up like taking over her own life. And yeah, it's really good.
Also, Margaret Qualley is a very good actor. I like watching her. And then you find out that she's Andy McDowell's daughter. And sometimes there's like this Nepo baby backlash right now, which is probably deserved in a lot of cases. But with her, you go, oh yeah, she does look like Andy McDowell, and I love Andy McDowell too. Like that's
right. Yeah,
that's kind of everybody's initial
you're
reaction.
like, okay, nepo babies have rights sometimes, I guess, if they're good at their job.
If you're gonna be a nepo baby, be Andy McDowell's nepo baby, because we all always instinctively loved Andy McDowell so much. And I don't know if Margaret Qualley has any nepo baby scandals or quotes that reflect that side of things that can gross people out and turn them off so much. But man, if you gotta be a nepo baby, be a nepo baby for alongside your mom, who charmed the world as the counterweight to Bill Murray in Groundhog Day, in a performance that I think is underrated to this day.
Yep.
Anyway, this episode's gone in some directions none of us ever saw. Okay, names that are slightly more, names that are more masculine, that fit your vibe that you've had for a long time and fit the transition you're going through. Names that I pitch, although you also know that my anxiety will be such that I encourage you to not go with a name just because I suggest it.
Okay, totally.
Because that would put pressure on me. But I feel like I've gotten to know you a bit. Let's see. Most importantly, we did get to talk about the charm of Andy McDowell on this episode, so that's good. Let's see. My brother. Okay, so my brother and I both have sons. They are very close in age. In a moment that we were very confused by, my dad did say, "Can you name them George or make their middle names George?" Which we did not. And then my dad was like, every generation of my family, there's always been a guy whose first or middle name is George. And all of a sudden, I just realized I never told you guys that. So I don't know if I got a cousin named Steven. If he has kids someday, he might need to throw George in there to appease this tradition. But I honestly, my dad's middle name is George, but I didn't even realize, like, oh, there's always been a George in the family. So if you want to make my dad happy, maybe switch your name to George.
I could do George. Yeah, I could do George. I'll write that down. George isn't bad.
That's one of the most, like, just, if you just want a straight up bluntly masculine name, George is right up there. George.
Right, like George or like Greg, honestly. But Greg,
that's
whatever.
My brother's name.
I like this. Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I like this too because obviously you don't know my name, but I feel like there is a conception. It's not a misconception because obviously, like, there's trans people that do this, but like going with the more masculine or more feminine version of your like birth name, and I don't really have that for my name, so whatever. So like this is helpful too. So yeah.
If you just want to hit masculinity on the head with a goddamn sledgehammer, George, just, hey everybody, my name now. Forget my old name. New name is George. That just...
George is actually, like, I kind of actually like George. You don't really know too many Georges anymore.
I like hearing you actually try on the names. We're not just like bullshit. I hear you trying it on conceptually. I hear you mentally going, how would I react to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking, I'll mull it over.
There's an MMA fighter, not someone I have any particular attachment to, but his name is Gray Maynard, and I do think the first name Gray is a good first name. And also Shades of Gray might match life experience here.
Oh, I see. Yeah, living. Yeah, okay. My first thought was 50 Shades of Grey, which...
Oh, no, not that you're also going to transition into a kink lifestyle. I don't know your level of kink right now. I wasn't implying that, but more just saying that, again, as someone who walked a life path where you actively sought to transition from one thing to another, that maybe there's something in there poetic about the idea of life is not black and white, that there can be shades of gray.
That's true. I do like that.
But you don't strike me as someone who wants a name that you have to explain from its you don't want your name to be like a tattoo you got in college where you just constantly have to explain it. You don't strike me as that type.
Great. The other thing too, Gray, I'm about to say something and I don't like that I think it, but I'm going to say it, but it's like trans guys in particular and I've been seeing this a lot on Twitter, which I need to get off Twitter anyway, but like people are within the trans community, like people are always making fun of trans, like the names that trans guys pick out for themselves, because it's always, it's like, I don't know, it's like meant to be like a silly, lighthearted joke or whatever. But, sometimes I'll see shit and I'm like, actually not that funny. Like I thought we learned in kindergarten to like not make fun of people's names. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but Gray to me does sound like a trans guy name, but like in a way that people would make fun of. You know what I mean?
And for the exact reason I laid out of like, oh, because life has shades of gray, there'd be some of that. And it would come from all sides, right? You could be made fun of for that by closed-minded straights. You could be made fun of as someone who really overthought your name within the queer community, I would imagine. There's a lot of angles from which you could make fun of that. Thank you for the constructive criticism. It will help me guide further suggestions.
No, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like, happy to help.
Right, like
George, you can't make fun of George. That's a sturdy name. There's
you like a sturdy masked name.
Curious George, but
Curious George. I like that. I do like knowing though that you just laid out a world of like, with my extended family, they might make fun of Gray. The first time I go to, if you have the first time you show up and say I have now fully transitioned and my name is Gray, the first time you say that at a gay bar, I can imagine you might get a lot of eye rolls. Yeah, that was a bad choice. I will say, and I'm not trying to defend myself, that's the type of thing that happens when you call a podcast and ask a guy who's married to a lady to help you pick your post-transition name. You're going to get a few clunkers like that.
Fair enough, but that's what's fun about it too. But if I walked out of this room right now and looked at my roommate and said my name's going to be Gray, I think that she would probably laugh at me too, and she can probably hear me saying this too from the other side of the wall.
Now,
but anyways,
you invited Andrea to participate. Andrea has typed out to me, and another singer I enjoy as well. The singer John Allison Weiss just stuck John on the front of their birth name and just moved on with life. Just stick a John and a dash at the beginning. Just take the most standard male name and attach it to the front.
I've never heard of this person before. I'm writing that down too. Okay. I do literally have a notebook in front of me, by the way. I was just kind of doodling while I was on hold. I've been dying to talk to you also about Orville Peck. You mentioned listening to Orville Peck like way earlier in the year. Isn't he the best?
Orville Peck.
He's amazing.
Orville Peck is... If I can listen, every once in a while we go on a music-driven rant on this show. Sometimes people think I have much better musical taste than I do. But what really happens is sometimes I just find something a little brilliant or maybe a little odd, and I champion it to the moon. My wife has impeccable taste in music. I have very, very laser-focused on things. Orville Peck is brilliant in every way. The songs will move you to tears. The showmanship is, I would say, both hilarious and campy and driven by cowboy imagery, but also in its own way, like really bold and challenging. I've read up on Orville, and Orville has a background in a Canadian punk band. Like, there is something about going, I'm going to sing legitimately great outlaw country songs in the style of your Johnny Cash's of the world, of Willie Nelson, and I'm going to be an out and proud gay man wearing a fringy leather mask and never show my face, but I will show my abs, and you will have to confront that the most sort of like masculine cowboy country western imagery is rather gay, and that you can enjoy these songs on all levels, but also buy into the camp side of this. Like, I think there's something so fucking cool and bold about it. And none of that challenging stuff takes away from the fact that if any of you go right now and just listen to some of Orville Peck's top tracks on wherever, Spotify, the videos that come up on YouTube, you'll undoubtedly just go, at the very least, you'll go, this singer has a fucking fantastic voice. And most likely you're going to also go, these songs are catchy as hell. And a lot of people, myself included, going, I don't even really love country as a genre, but I love this take on it. It's Orville Peck's the best.
Yep. He's the best. He's so good. And I have some similar recommendations too, if you want to get more into country. Because I'm not a super big country person either. I like, like old, like 60s, 70s country, whatever, the outlaw stuff.
The outlaw stuff. The outlaw stuff I can vibe with. I just said vibe with. I'm 44 years
100%.
old. I can't be saying things like vibe with anymore, but outlaw country's great. At least I'm self-aware that I sound like a fucking dork saying things like vibe with. At least I'm owning it. Dork. I do. I'm trying to figure out how to... Anyway,
come off dorky to me.
Thank you. As I say, I'm like, nobody wants to hear a 44-year-old guy say, I can vibe with outlaw country. No one's signing up for that. But at least I'm self-aware enough to know it.
Yeah, exactly. Dale Hollow opened for, I think he opened for Orville Peck like a couple years ago. So Dale Hollow, country music superstar, is his like full name, trademark pending. He's very good as well. He has a similar kind of like, raspy, like outlaw voice. And I've also been listening to Willie Carlisle. Willie is spelled with an I. He had a new album out at the beginning of this year called Critterland, and I love that album. It's so good. He's more like bluegrass, like kind of like Appalachian, like folk or whatever. But I think you will vibe with his like DIY, like he kind of weaves in like punk elements a little bit to the punk, like, sentimentality, whatever, to his music. So Dale Hollow and Willie Carlisle are my current faves right now. And Sierra Farrell. Have you heard of Sierra Farrell?
Sierra Farrell? I can't say that I have.
You should listen to her or watch her NPR like Tiny Desk concert, because she sounds amazing, and she's just like she's like magical to listen to live. Basically, she's great.
Now, if you like these types of artists, I would also tell you, I think you might like a guy who I think I may have talked about on the show before, who is David Dondero, who also has a Tiny Desk, but is like a sort of traveling punk folk troubadour. Brilliant. Really brilliant. And
nice. Yeah, I'll check him out for sure.
Yeah.
Fun.
And do you know Orville Peck's old punk band?
Music. I don't. Here's the thing. I kind of buy into his like anonymity, and I have not really I've never been a huge I need to know everything about the band or artist that I'm listening to right now. I wore that out when I was really into the Jonas Brothers as a teen. So I kind of used up all my energy there. But I don't know much about Orville Peck, honestly.
Well, if you ever do a deep dive, he has an old band called Eating Out, which is a very good name for a punk band. And those songs are also really, really good. And yes, Orville Peck is the best. I was supposed to see Orville Peck a couple months ago. My wife got us tickets, and then we had a week where just one of those weeks where everything kind of fell apart, and we couldn't get a babysitter, and we were both super exhausted and kind of at the end of our rope, and we had to bail on the tickets, and I was so bummed, because my guess is that Orville Peck also puts on an incredible live show. I can't imagine that it's anything except the absolute.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Ugh.
I've seen him 4 times, maybe 5 times, I think. Mostly because he came to my hometown technically in Iowa, but I'm from the Illinois-Iowa border. But he did 3 shows in a row there at a new venue there a couple summers ago, and that was crazy because nobody ever comes to that area. So the fact that I got to see him fucking 3 times, I bought a ticket for every show because I was like, there's no way I'm missing this.
Oh.
So I got to see him like 3 times in one weekend. And then I saw him, I think last summer in Minneapolis at First Avenue. So that was pretty cool too. So yeah, I've seen him
amazing.
a handful of times now, and he's amazing.
I can't believe I missed it in Brooklyn. Can you imagine what an Orville Peck show in Brooklyn, New York must have looked like and felt like?
Oh my gosh. That would be so fun.
The most joyous celebration of just fucking badass
so
queer,
funny.
just badass queer energy. It must have been so good.
I dressed up as Orville for Halloween last year, and it was so funny because like nobody at the party got it. They were like, "Who the fuck are you supposed to be?
You the Lone Ranger? Who are you over here?"
Yeah, I know. Everyone was like, I don't know who this person is. I've never heard of them. I'm like, well, you're a loser, and get with the times. But I did have one of the people who hosted the party. They were like, they messaged me on Instagram like a week later or something, and they were like, "Oh my God, I just started listening to Orville Peck because I remembered that you dressed up as him, and his music's so good." I was like, yes.
Everyone needs to listen to Orville Peck. If anybody is connected to Orville Peck, please let him know that I'm obsessed with him. Please let him know that our fan base is primed and ready to become his fan base. If there's one thing that we need to do as a beautiful anonymous community moving forward, it's that I need to get everybody, even the people who aren't particularly interested in music. Everyone needs, and listen, I'll just say this. If you go and listen to the song Daytona Sand by Orville Peck, and you don't immediately say, I think I fucking like Orville Peck, I honestly think you need to see a doctor to see if something's up with either your mental state or like the actual functioning of your heart. Because that song is one of the best songs I've ever heard. And now I'm just it's about to get weird, but I sit here and I go, I feel safe in the arms of this masked cowboy when he sings songs like that.
Yes.
I feel like I, as a listener, can just let every thought out of my goddamn head, because all I need to hear is just, buddy, we got major blues. Another suitcase in your hand.
Yes, sing it.
M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I-D-D-D. Let's pause there, because you got to pause somewhere. So we're pausing here. We'll be right back, everybody.
I am Christopher Titus of the Titus Podcast.
I am Rachel.
And I'm Ken Highland, a.k.a. The Highlander.
When the rest of the world is screaming insanity, we scream sanity. We do a satire, comedy, news, and events podcast.
First and foremost, funny first.
Whatever's happening in the world, if you want to hear it in a way that doesn't rip your soul out, we'll make you laugh with it.
At the end of the day, we just scream sanity. That's what we do.
Can't we just talk sanity? Because
No, you have to scream sanity. So
Nobody's going to hear it.
So tired of you guys screaming.
I talk stupidity.
Well, that's true.
The Titus Podcast on all major streaming platforms, YouTube, and at ChristopherTitus.com. Titus Podcast. It's time to scream sanity.
Thanks again to all the advertisers who helped the show happen. Now let's finish off the phone call. M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I-D-D-D. And then he's out here doing fucking... He goes and drops songs about how all cowboys are gay with Willie Nelson. That's fucking bold and badass on both their parts. He's dropping songs with Kylie Minogue, which is just like, you're mixing so much imagery and so many eras of life in a way. And many a college student is writing essays about Orville Peck right now. But I sit here and I go, for you to do a duet with...
So. Well, are they or are they... Are they hitting up Chat GPT to write the fucking essay?
Yeah,
for
many,
them?
yes. Many a college student right now is training their AI to go, talk about how Orville Peck is selectively picking who he does duets with in a way that almost redefines the openness of queer-coded music and imagery from the modern perspective, dragging things from the past into a present spotlight and inviting you to re-examine them from the modern perspective in a way that takes things that may have been coded or hidden about them and puts them in plain sight now in a way that celebrates them and in a way that, frankly, I love, from a weird hot guy in a cowboy hat and a leather mask. And yeah, he's hot. We're not pretending Orville Peck's not hot and that his voice doesn't just, everything this man wants in life, he should get. Anyway, Orville Peck, if you ever hear this, I'm a fan. Anyway, okay, you liked George. We only had two pitches.
Can't hear it, but I'm snapping.
I can't hear it, but you're what?
Yeah, we've only gone through a couple names. I just said you can't hear it, but I'm snapping. I'm like, go off, like you get it.
I love it. God, this could just become an Orville. Clearly, for any future callers, understand. If you bring up Orville Peck to me in 2022, 23, 24, this will just become an Orville Peck fan podcast. So be really careful before you bring it up again. And for anybody out there going, Chris seems really passionate about this in a way that he hasn't since he's talked about bands like the Smiths and Jawbreaker and Billy Bragg along the way. Yeah, Orville Peck is working for me the past few years. Whew, that is good music. Because here's the thing, and then we have to stop talking about Orville Peck. Here's the thing. There's not that many musicians in the world that have mastered their ability to have a song that on Monday can make you feel incredibly sad and in touch with your humanity and your emotions, and then by midday Tuesday make you dance around your kitchen while you're supposed to be getting chores done with the same song. And Orville Peck's music does that. It's brilliant stuff.
Yep. You get it. You should be writing the essays.
I kind of wish I could just be writing essays about Orville Peck. How about, Andrea just pointed this out, and Andrea being a very good, slick producer, getting us back on track. Andrea clearly reading about Orville Peck as we go on this mutual rant. Apparently his middle name is Jay, but nobody ever told him what it stood for, so he changes it up. Some of the names he's been using are Orville James Peck, Orville John Peck, or Orville Joaquin Peck. Andrea wants to know, would you maybe consider using J, J-A-Y, as an homage to the J in Orville J. Peck?
Jay could be interesting. But then you immediately think of Jay Leno, and then it's like, I don't really have that vibe to me.
I dare you to name yourself Conan. Just name yourself after Conan O'Brien. Then. If you're like, fuck Jay Leno, just be like, my name's Conan, as a fuck you to Jay Leno.
You know what? I will, because I'm so fucking excited that Conan's hosting the Oscars that I'm like, I will fully do it. I don't care.
Another brilliant influence on my life. Don't get me started on Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien is the Orville Peck of 90s late night comedy.
So true. Okay, Chris, you have to write that essay now.
Will you merge their two names and name yourself Corville? Half Conan, half Orville.
Corville is fun because it sounds like Corvid the bird, and that's fun. But then I'll introduce myself. I'm like, hey, I'm Corville. And they're like, did you say COVID? And I'm like, no,
that's true.
Sorry.
Andrea did right. As you were saying it, Andrea wrote, Corville rules actually sounds like a bird. You both had a bird thought right there. What else?
Wow, we're so in sync.
You like a super blunt, working class, masculine name like George. What else can we put out there? Herman's coming to mind, but having something with her in it as a syllable when you're transitioning feels weird.
What was the name you said? Herman?
Like Herman. Herman's another one that's just like an old school. You don't hear it as much anymore, but it's like an old school working class name. But her and man feels again like an intentional choice that is, I'm not.
That would be really funny though. I think that would be funny. That's a pretty good pitch. Herman, like, I'm not mad about that.
So whereas Gray, you were like, no, I will be made fun of from all directions. Her man, you're like, I'll have that conversation.
That would be funny though. I don't know. I think that would be super funny.
Andrea wants to double check. Are there
other trans people?
Are there other names you're considering that we haven't heard, or is there a short list, or is this kind of square one of the conversation?
No, this is square one. I have not really thought about it. So
all right.
Yeah, sorry guys.
All right.
You're doing most of the work for me today.
So you like things that are straight down the middle, things that aren't really flowery, that don't have like a philosophy behind them. That's not what you're looking for.
Yeah, I would say that.
And honestly, I say this again in a way that's not a joke. And you were saying before that you had some of that like class stress about taking a job as a janitor. I go, you want a name of a male janitor. You want a name that fits that life that you're living right now. Let's see. What are some standards?
I'll let you know if you happen to pitch a name that's like a name of one of my coworkers, because obviously that can't happen. I can't be like, hey, I'm whatever, number 2.
Andrea just typed Bruce in all caps. But
Bruce.
I will also say, though, that Bruce was regarded as like an iconic queer name to the degree that when they made the Incredible Hulk TV show, they wouldn't let the character be Bruce Banner. That's why he's David Banner in the show.
Really?
So I don't know if that's a positive or a negative to tie it into a footnote in pop culture history in the queer community. But yeah, the character's name was David Banner on TV, Bruce Banner in the comics. But TV people apparently said Bruce is too much of a gay name in the early 80s, late 70s when that show came out.
That's so funny.
Or you could go for the guy who played the Hulk, Lou Ferrigno. What if you just name yourself Lou?
Lou?
You hate it.
That'd be kind of fun. Okay. No, I don't hate it. No, here's the thing with Lou. My middle name, I guess I can tell you my middle name so you can work around that a little bit. My middle name is Lee, Leigh.
Well,
so I can't be Lou
Bruce.
Lee.
You can't be, but you can be Bruce Lee? You're shutting down Lou Lee, but you didn't shut down Bruce Lee? Hi, everybody. I've transitioned. Please call me Bruce Lee. Actually, no. Call me Steven Seagal. Call me Jean-Claude Van Damme as my first name. How do you? I can't be Lou Lee, and you don't. Everything I say, no. But Andrea can pitch that your name is Bruce Lee, and you don't flag that. I see where we stand.
I didn't even think about it until then. That's so funny. Oh my god.
Lee as a middle name, because that's a badass middle name. You got to keep Lee as the middle name, right?
I do like Lee, yeah.
Ronnie. Although Veronica shortens to Ronnie as well, so people might think you're trying to hang on to the femme connection to Veronica. But Ronnie Lee.
Maybe, but that's not really close to my current name.
That's
Ronnie's
good to hear.
Not bad.
Ronnie Lee.
Kind of fun.
Ronnie Lee is a fun name.
Ronnie Lee is like a goofy little guy.
Yeah. If you're aiming to be a goofy little guy, Ronnie Lee. But Ronnie Lee also has a shot and a beer at the end of the workday on the way home. Ronnie Lee steps at the corner tavern and has a shot and a beer.
I would love to be that guy.
I like that.
Yeah, dude.
Next couple of years, you're just going to be a guy cleaning up the school, and then when you get off the late shift, you have a shot and a beer on the way home.
Hell yeah, brother. I can live with that.
George Lee. See, now George Lee sounds to me like I wouldn't be shocked if there's like a Confederate general from the Civil War named George Lee. Robert E. Lee.
So true.
But Ronnie Lee.
You're so right.
Ronnie Lee. What else fits with Lee, Andrea? Andrea still has not erased Bruce. I think Andrea hopes you name yourself Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee would be really, like, that's so fucking funny.
Who else? Tommy Lee is now anything already associated with Lee. Tommy Lee made a sex tape with Pamela Anderson. We don't need that smoke.
Yeah, we can't do that.
We don't need that smoke. Who else? Who else do we want? Because then I'm also just trying to think of like, you start to think of like, I'm starting to think about like Mick or Sid, but they don't sound good with Lee. I'm glad you told me about that. It can't be like Sid Lee.
Yeah.
That sounds weird, right? Mick Lee. You can't be that.
Yeah, no, that does sound weird. Yeah. Mick is, I will say Mick is pretty close to my first name. My name right now starts with an M. So It's like, I could, I don't mind a Mike or whatever, but whatever.
Ronnie Lee.
But then it's like I said, like it sounds like I'm trying to find the boy version of my current name, which I don't know if I'm interested in.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
And Tommy Lee, I can't do Tom because Tom is the name in my family, like George in your family, where like
everywhere.
I have an Uncle Tom and a Cousin Tom and my Grandpa Tom. And, yeah.
Oh my goodness. We have only about 4 minutes left. How long did we talk about Orville Peck? Jeez.
No way, really? Probably a long time.
We'll continue it behind the paywall, though. We're going to nail this name.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I want people on Facebook, too, to suggest names, too. Like, I'm fully opening it up to that. I'll take name suggestions from anyone.
Name pitches in the Facebook comments over in the Facebook group. I love that. What else jumps out at me? Jamie is a great name, but there's a comedian I know named Jamie Lee. Really, really talented comedian. Jamie Lee.
Well, and then there's Jamie Lee Curtis.
You can't be Jamie Lee Curtis. You can't be that. No.
There's already a Jamie Lee Curtis.
Now the only things popping into my head are Andrea points out 2 syllables seems to work. Danny, but not Dan. Like, you don't want to be Dan Lee, but Danny Lee. Danny or Ronnie Lee, that does work. Claude. Yeah. Andrea's suggesting Claude. But Claude Lee sounds to me like the name of like a cartoon character. Oh, you only put that when Andrea, I said John Claude Van Damme. No, that was on me. That was a John Claude Van Damme. Okay, Ronnie. Andrea says that she once had a terrible neighbor named Ronnie. Please don't do Ronnie, but we got to separate your personal experiences with your neighbor, Andrea. Danny, True. Ronnie, those really work. But the problem with those is those are names that generally you'd start going by Ron like around college, or Dan around like Danny and Ronnie. Those are your middle school, high school names, but generally you grow out of them. And I don't know if you want to hang on to that youthfulness in your transition.
But then, isn't it kind of fun? You know an old guy. Like, I feel like I could know an old guy that's like 65 and he goes by, like, everyone calls him Ronnie. Or like he's got a friend who's got kids and his kids call him Uncle Ronnie or whatever. You know what I mean?
I hear you. I do think that's a cool uncle. That's a cool uncle. And I actually like Ronnie Lee better than just Ronnie. I don't know if you're planning on incorporating the Lee.
I wasn't, but maybe I'll have to. Ronnie Lee's kind of sick. This is really fun for me.
Man, I feel like there's a perfect one out there on the tip of my tongue.
I know, yeah. I do have a niece and nephew, so yeah, like being like Uncle Ronnie would be fun.
Steve is a good male name. Steve is like bluntly male in a George way, but then Stevie Lee, if you decide to go and be like a little bit more of a character, Stevie Lee's not bad.
Stevie Lee is interesting.
And Steve, if you just want to go Steve is like a George to me. Everybody knows somebody they like named Steve. Every single person listening right now can think of at least one Steve in their life that they're like, yes, solid. Everybody's got a Steve who's solid.
Yeah.
And then Stevie Lee.
I had my grandpa Steve, actually.
And there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
This Lee revelation is changing everything.
That's not bad. Yeah. I know. I probably should have led with that, huh? Didn't even think of it.
But then we wouldn't have been able to rant about class politics and queer cowboys for nearly as long.
You're so right.
What else? Who else do we like?
Stevie Lee's not bad.
Scotty Lee. Scotty Lee is catchy, and Scott is another sort of like blunt male name that I like. And Scotty, if you go with that links up with Lee.
Now we're going back to like an older guy called like the boyish version of his name.
Yeah.
My dad has a friend that still goes by Scotty, and he's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah,
so
fair.
Can't do that.
No, you got to outgrow Scotty at some point. But it's also one of those big questions, and we have 20 seconds, so why even bring it up? But I sit here and I go,
oh, no.
One thing I've probably not thought about, but when you're picking a name and you're redefining yourself in this way, emotionally, physically, and with the life experience you're going to have moving forward, is there also a psychological aspect to it that you pick the phase of life you want to start at in that new identity? Like, can your name reflect an adolescence in a way to embrace some version of an adolescence in your transition. I've never thought on it, but I bet people think about it pretty hard when they're living it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I have noticed even I'm kind of going the opposite way, where I'm like picturing myself being older. And I think that is really important to me too. And like trans people in general, I guess, like we don't really see depictions of older trans men or older trans women. Like we're going to be the generation of like grandparents, like trans grandparents, I guess. And that's like fun for me to think about. So I am thinking more of like being like an older dude, which is like awesome. Like it makes me like emotional to think about sometimes. So I'm more so like, picturing a future. I don't care. I don't need to be a teenager again. I fucking did that once and it sucked. So I'm like looking forward to being like an old man, like,
You just want to be an old man.
Yeah.
Skip right to it.
I basically already am one.
I had a great uncle named Harold, my grandfather's brother, Uncle Harold, who was like the ultimate old man in my mind. He was so old. Like when I was a little kid, I met him a handful of times. He was so old, and his name was Harold. And that's another one of those names where I'm like, people don't name their kids Harold anymore. That was from an era when it was
Harold?
You go down to Main Street and you buy your bread in one store, and then you buy your meats in the butcher shop, and then you walk in and you buy your dairy and then blah, blah, blah. Like this was an era before big box stores. That's when you named your people Harold.
Yeah.
When you got pickles out of a barrel at the pickled store. Anyway, our time is up. We're going to continue this. I like it too. I love it. But listen, we're going behind the paywall. We get to ask you a whole bunch of questions from a list that has been building and growing over its listeners to the show. Keep pitching questions, and we add more each week. So thanks to everybody who's been listening for free. BeautifulAnonymous.com. Get behind the paywall. We have great stuff. We're going to continue this conversation, and then we're going to do our 5 questions. Sound good, caller?
Sounds good. Bye, freeloaders.
Caller, thank you so much, sincerely, for opening up at all this idea that your name could be something that I contribute, Andrea contributes to, that our community gets to contribute to, that is vulnerable. There's vulnerability there, there's trust there, and it's all sincerely appreciated. Thank you to Andrea Quinn for producing the show. Thank you to Shellshag for our theme music. punchup.live/Chris Gethard if you want tickets to that show with Chris Gethard, which is selling out in a way I did not expect. Anyway, we also have a voicemail line, 973-306-4676. And Instagram at Beautiful Anonymous Pod. Join the Facebook group at Beautiful Anonymous, the community. And remember, you can sign up for more of our stuff at BeautifulAnonymous.com. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions. But I'll say something divisive, especially for someone from the Northeast. I would rather have pineapple on pizza than like these slices where people put like a big pile of baked ziti or penne pasta on top of it, and the whole thing falls apart and is a big mess. And I think a lot of people would say, no.
People are doing that?
Yeah, that's a thing. Put pasta on your pizza. And I sit there, I'm like, people don't get mad about that, but I think that is objectively worse as far as a pizza experience than pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you on that.
But if you like it, you like it. I don't need a big pile of ziti on pizza. Andrea knows what I'm talking about. This is all over the Northeast lately.
Well, it sounds like you guys got to get that under control then.
We're trying. Believe me, I'm working behind the scenes here. Anyway, what useless talent do you have? Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at BeautifulAnonymous.com.
From navigating headlines,
fentanyl poisoning more prevalent than COVID deaths, car accidents, and even suicide,
to a proven strategy for success.
If you do that every day, it changes the way you go through this world.
That then translates into something physical as well as something chemical in your brain.
Critical and relevant information to help you navigate through life.
It leads to a higher degree of success.
Fill in the blanks. Available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.